the last set of calculations we're going to be doing for this chapter is figuring out the pOH, okay, which is very similar to the pH. Keep in mind that pOH is a way of describing the number of hydroxide concentrations within a solution, okay? So it's very similar to the pH in terms of the formula that way. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that we can calculate pH from pOH because the sum of those two will equal 14. Okay, so you simply subtract to find pH, or if you have your pH, subtract from 14 to get your pOH. So we can do some of those things, but I think one of the easiest things that people forget to do is just the product of those two concentrations will also equal 1.0 times 10 to the negative 14. I guess the biggest point is, and I've got a graphic for it, that you can go from hydroxide all the way around to figure out if I'm given a concentration here, I can convert it this way to hydrogen ion concentration by dividing, and then I take the pH, the negative log of that to get my pH. I can go the other way. I can calculate from a concentration what its pH was, and then subtract that from 14 to get my pH. A lot of people tend to go this way because it's just less clunky numbers to work with and so on. Both ways will get you the exact same way. So let's take a look at a couple of examples for this. What is the pH of a hydroxide concentration of 4 times 10 to the negative 11? Now, we can do one of two things. I don't care which one you use. Remember, your hydrogen times your hydroxide is going to equal 1.0 times 10 to the negative 14. Okay, so I can plug in 4 times 10 to the negative 11 this way. Okay, so my hydrogen concentration is going to be 1 divided by 4 times 10 to the negative 11. 1 times 10 to the negative 14. 1 divided by 4, if you don't know, is 0.25. 0.25 times 10 to the, and I simply subtract the two. So negative 14 minus a negative 11, it gives me a negative 3. Okay, now I can leave this as it is, and that's quite all right. We want to find pH from that. So my pH then is going to be the negative log of 0.25 times 10 to the negative third. Distribute my log, get a negative out in front, the log of 0.25 plus the log of 10 to the negative 3. Okay, remember these are opposites of one another, so that gives me just negative 3. And then the log of 0.25 gives me a negative 0.602. Okay, and I'm going to distribute that negative out front to everything. That turns that to positive, that to positive. So my answer will be 3.602. Okay, and I have in this problem two significant figures, so that gives me 3.6 is my pH. That's one way to solve this. Now there is another way to solve this. If I bring it back the other way, what I did first was I figured out my hydrogen concentration. Let's actually figure out our pOH instead. Okay, so my pOH, I have 4 times 0.0 times 10 to the negative 11, and I'm going to take my pOH is going to be the negative log of this. Okay, so I'm going to distribute my log this way. The log of 4 plus the log of 10 to the negative 11. And don't forget that negative out in front. Okay, if I push in log of 4, I get an answer of 0.602 plus, and then the log of negative 10, that's going negative 11 is going to be just negative 11. Okay, make sure you put this out in front, and I end up with an answer. I just basically subtract that, so that's going to be just slightly less than 11. Okay, I think I did some math wrong on the other one, but I'm sure you caught the mistake. I'm not going to revisit all that. Now, I find the pOH from that, and then I simply divide the two, or subtract the two from that to get my pH. Okay, 2.5 times 10 to the negative 4. If I take a look at the concentration, this is actually a really easy problem. I plug in, don't worry about how this is, just plug this in. pOH equals the negative log of 11.22. Okay, so 11.22, the log, and take the negative of that, you'll end up with 6.03 times 10 to the negative 12. Okay, Let's take a look at this one. This goes around the horn. We'll see if we pick up that mistake from the other one. The hydrogen concentration of POH is 2.38. Okay, let's find my hydroxide concentration first. Okay, my POH equals the negative log of my hydroxide concentration. Okay, I'm going to get 2.38 equals the negative log of X, is essentially what we're solving for. I'm going to divide both sides by -1. So the problem becomes negative 2.38 equals the log of X, which is my hydroxide. I'm going to divide both sides by log. Well, can't divide by log, but you can multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm going to take 10x of negative 2.38. So all I need to do is put 2.38 negative, and I'm going to take the inverse log of that. I end up with an answer here of 0.004169. Okay, now that is my hydroxide concentration. Okay, this problem is asking for my hydrogen concentration. So all I do is I take this answer, and because my hydrogen times my hydroxide concentration is going to equal 1 times 10 to the negative 14, I'm going to divide both sides by this guy. So I'm going to take 1 times 10 to the negative 14 divided by 4.169 times 10 to the 1 to negative third. Okay, 4.169 times 10 to the negative third. Okay, just plug it in your calculator. 1 exponent 14, or 1, sorry, not exponent, 1 times 10 to the negative 14. And then I divide that by my 4.169 times 10 to the negative third. Okay, that is one way to calculate that. Now, another way to do this is to simply go, okay, my POH is 2.38. 14 minus 2.38. 14 minus 2.38, that gives me, oops, I'm in stats function here. 14 minus 2.38, that will equal 11.62 is my pH. Now I want to find my hydrogen concentration. It's the negative log of the hydrogen concentration. Okay, so I simply change the signs, and I take the exponent of negative 11.62. So 11.62 negative, take the inverse log, I end up with 2.3, essentially 2.4 times 10 to the negative 12. 2.40 times 10 to the negative 12. There's my hydrogen concentration. So pretty simple. Don't forget that we're going back to the concept of this right here. I brought the problem back. If I had pH, I can bring it to hydroxide, then the hydrogen concentration, or I can go hydroxide to pH and solve it that way. So go this way around the horn or go this way around the horn. Both ways will get you there.